Yahoro minasan, this is Yuki. And before diving into this review session of the Avatar Last Airbender, the cartoon versus the Netflix animation, I would like to speak to you today a bit. Basically, I have been doing some reflections about my character Yuki the past few days, about the lore and how my character came into being. And I think I found it a bit hard to showcase the character without actual situation or without having somebody to communicate with in a direct way. And as you have noticed already from the past videos, I have been trying to give away some spoiler-free recommendations. However, the problem with giving spoiler-free recommendation, I think it limits my vocabulary and it makes me think, almost say the same thing over and over, like, oh, the show is cool, or it is funny, or it is interesting, which might not what you have been looking into exactly while subscribing to this channel. I mean, yeah, it's probably you are here for the recommendation, which is what I want to give mostly. But at the same time, I thought I could explore a bit on my own thoughts and a bit also on what I have noticed through the shows by having special episodes for discussion and where I just give my raw opinions, and as the audience, feel free to give me your thoughts and also your critics, and if you share the same concerns as me or not. Yeah. So again, I would like aratamete kudasai. I'll introduce myself again. This is Yuki, the Himidere realist Shinbyu elf. And yeah, I also found out recently that there is an anime called Otaku Elf, which I just started watching. And it's really funny, but it's slightly different from my character actually. I mean, I wouldn't be as crybaby as her. But yeah, I think let's explore a bit more slowly. I hope that you get to see this character grow and develop itself, and also you get as much information from me as possible. So yeah, now we can start our session. So now I'd like to start my review of the Avatar Last Airbender cartoon, and also the live action made by Netflix, the drama made of 8 episodes. And we are not speaking about the blue ones, definitely not, for sure. So here it is, the cartoon poster, and here is also the Netflix poster. So just to be fair, like the Netflix adaptation have really done a great job, I think, with the costumes, with the makeup, more or less the lighting, and with various action scenes. I think they really did great effort on those terms. Second point I would like to bring about is that there was some minor and some major changes, and some people actually appreciated those minor changes. Some people had their own on and off about it, and of course there is a whole package of people who were there just ready to criticize it no matter what they ever did it, because unfortunately we all know they don't have the budget to make something like it's extra perfect. Okay, so in this cartoon versus Netflix adaptation discussion, I would like to say the first part is that I was a bit disappointed by Katara's personality in the Netflix show. I mean, like, let's be honest. Katara in the anime, in the cartoon, she was like a mom figure. She was always mad at Aang and Sokka for doing a lot of stupid things, and she was also like mentoring them. She was like the mom. She was the one who was taking care of everyone. However, in the series, her character was a bit bland. She didn't really make so much impact. And I don't know, like, I felt like they should have probably just did the original in order to make it better, but everyone have their own take about it. So, and second, I would like to speak about Aang. You must have noticed it in the Netflix adaptation, Aang was so much struck by his grief. Like, until the very end, in every scene, you can feel that Aang was so sad and was so I would like to say stuck on the feelings that he have experienced it when he went to the Southern Air Temple after 100 years. Which is, I think, in a way, can be one of the interpretations that you can give to Aang's character. I mean, that could be also one way he would have reacted anyway. So I can understand that. Also in the series, in the cartoon series, we all know that he was had secretly liked Katara, and he was doing a lot of crappy direct and indirect flirting lines, which I really love it because I thought they were funny. But in the series, they omitted them out. Uh, we all know that he was more goofy and he was more funny, and he also, in most importantly, he prioritized balance and people's well-being based on the air nomad's principles, and less his own and also his friends' well-being or priorities or whatever. So the thing that got me a bit like kind of annoyed is that Aang is definitely not one of those anime characters who are all about the power of friendship. No, he actually pretty much ignored his friends at some points just because that doesn't really work out in the well-being of the world or the balance, and not because of what Avatar Roku or Avatar Kush told him, but because that's what he himself, as a neo nomad, thinks should be the right thing. There was less moments where he relied on the previous avatar rather than his own reasoning. I feel like in the Netflix adaptation, each time he gets stuck on an issue, oh, I will go to the previous avatar to ask him this. Oh, I'll go to the previous avatar to ask him this. But that's not how he reacted in the series. In the cartoon, he was more like, oh, this is how an air nomad would think, but maybe this is not enough. Maybe I should ask another avatar in order to get another perspective on the events or on the elemental reaction or something. So that's my point. Of course, I still love him in the series. I wish they would have given him more screen time, because I will come later on to why he has less screen time, although he is the main character of the show. Yeah, I mean, move on now to the character of Sokka, which many old fans they were thinking like he was not sexist enough in this series. I feel like they took away all his sexist attitude and jokes, and they made it into a justified patriarchal figure. He is patriarchal because his father asked him to take care of this, but that's not it. Sokka was just sexist. He didn't recognize women's rights into fighting or into being independent or into making reasonable solutions or anything. He was straight out that way in the cartoon. In the series, they changed it, and one of his biggest character development was when he went to the Kyoshi Islands and he met Suki, and he trained for a short while as a Kyoshi warrior, and then he discovered like, yeah, women can actually do much more than I thought in my whole life. So yeah, there is that aspect of it, and he was more funny in the series. He cracked a lot in the cartoon. He cracked a lot more jokes, and really most of the wrong times ever. However, in the series, they made him look a little bit more serious, a little bit more responsible. We, of course, here it can be another interpretation of the character. Deep down inside, we all know that Sokka cared for his family. We all know that he took seriously his father promise. Deep down, he probably really cared about everyone around him, although he was like a little bit all over the place. So it can be understood as another interpretation of what the character could have done or what its true feelings could have been portrayed. Now I'd like to move on to Zuko, and to be honest, I really love this. I really loved how they did the character Zuko. Like literally, Zuko was Zuko. There was no major changes or anything. The live action was almost told from his own perspective, to the point of neglecting the Aang or the gang together. And they really portrayed well his feelings, his Zuko's feelings, Zuko's thoughts, relationships, and with all the like flashbacks and everything, like they really did him so well. Honestly, I don't remember ever sympathizing or liking Zuko in the first book, the first season of the cartoon. I only remember that I started growing. He started growing on me, and I started sympathizing with him in the season 3, like when it was the point where you see Zuko have already suffered enough, and you understand slightly a bit his way of thinking. But I think they sort of changed a bit the timeline here, and they put everything in the first book. They were like, guys, you need to accept that Zuko is a really good guy deep down, although he has anger issues. Yeah. So this is one thing. I really loved how they took the uptake they had on him, and honestly, it's so true to the point. Also, Suki's personality, the one they met in Kyoshi Warrior, was so on point again. Her looks, her behavior, the makeup, the outfits, everything. It's exactly her. The other character I'd like to move on to is Bumi. I don't know if you know Bumi, but most of the people who watch the cartoon definitely would know Bumi. He was the old man using the earth bending that sort of started playing tricks on Aang in the Netflix adaptation. You saw him. For me, he was a bit too angry and too bitter at Aang for disappearing. Some people thought it was more realistic that way than the animation, because they thought I mean, it kind of justified his anger. But I thought that in the series they sort of too much emphasizes it, and it made me feel a little bit uncomfortable, if you can see my point. He wanted Aang to act more like a guy who lived 112 years, but Aang was just 12 years. There was no way he can behave like somebody who lived 112 years. So, I don't know. I think. What do you think? Actually, I don't have really an idea how it's how would somebody behave an adult when they have never ever in their life lived an adult. I mean, think about it. Aang was in the ice this day. The next day he wake up and they tell him like it's 100 years ago that when you actually spoke to these people. So for me, the his grief over Gyatso and the air nomads was very much reasonable, because of course if you put yourself in his shoes, it would be very very hurtful and very painful to imagine. Yeah, last but not least, I'm moving on to Azula and Ozai relationship, which was a bit wicked in the live action. Because although we know that it's true that Ozai sort of manipulated her in her early childhood and created competition between the siblings on purpose, that was not their relationship in the cartoon at that point in their life. And Ozai was more inclined in the cartoon to make Azula the Fire Lord instead of Zuko all the way. Although he sort of set up this criteria to Zuko, although he sent him away, he clearly favors so much Azula in the cartoon. However, in the series, they were like, he's gonna be evil and she's gonna be bitter, and this is gonna explain why Azula is behaving like total shit in the next season and the season after. But I don't know, like, I think this is another way to interpret the relationship. It's up to them. Maybe I like it more the anime version, but again, this one is not bad either. So, I don't know if you saw also character of Mai, who's one of the two girl best friends of Azula. I think in the cartoon she was more sarcastic. She had more dark humor, more sarcastic. She was definitely a supportive girlfriend, but not in the exact way that they portrayed it in the series either. As an old fan of the cartoon of the Avatar Last Airbender, I think that showing the cabbage seller and also the second Tenal Singers band brought tears to my eyes. I was like, oh my god, they are there! I cannot believe it! Also, the Leaves from the Vine song about Aero-san. It's here. I was literally tearing up at that point. I was not even joking, really. So yeah, I really loved this moment because they bring so much emotions. And one final joke I'd like to share here. So often Aang portray himself or think of himself as a pacifist. He thinks, I don't harm anybody, I don't attack anyone, I'm for peace. I have done everything for peace. But then each time they pass by the cabbage man, I know it just happened also in the Netflix series, but in the anime it happened like 3, 4, 5 times at least. Each time they pass by the cabbage man, they destroy his carriage. There is no time in my life in this animation series where they pass by the cabbage man and they don't do something wrong to him. So yeah, that's it. I hope that you enjoyed this discussion, and please tell me your thoughts about both the Netflix series and the cartoon. Bye bye!